In the massive battle for your attention, for your screen time, these media giants are in this constant war for the future of entertainment. And right now, we're looking at what might be one of the boldest moves yet. Paramount's absolutely audacious, multi-billion-dollar plan to not just survive the streaming wars, but to actually win them. But to really get the plan, you first have to understand the problem. And this question, asked directly to Paramount's new leadership, it just cuts right to the bone. You've got declining cable networks, a movie studio that's pretty much in last place. So the question is simple, and it's brutal. Why would anyone be interested in this company? Well, the answer really lies with the guy who's now in charge, the new chairman and CEO, David Ellison. See, where everybody else sees this collection of dying assets, Ellison sees a sleeping giant. He sees an underdog with just a ton of untapped potential. And his job? It's to wake that giant up. And believe me, the scale of that challenge is immense. I mean, when you look at the metric that matters most, your actual viewing time, Paramount is barely a blip on the radar, just 2%. They're not just losing the race to giants like YouTube and Netflix, they are miles behind the starting line. It's a huge problem. So how do you fix it? Well, Ellison has boiled his entire turnaround plan down to this: a surprisingly simple two-part strategy. First, win in content. Reinvigorate these amazing historic brands like Paramount and CBS. And second, become the most technologically capable media company on the planet. Build platforms that can go toe-to-toe with the best that Silicon Valley has to offer. But look, a vision like that, it needs a massive leap forward. You can't just inch your way there. So to solve the company's huge scale problem and really jumpstart this whole transformation, Ellison zeroed in on a single game-changing move: a massive acquisition. And the target was Warner Bros. Discovery. Now, this isn't just any company, okay? This is a titan of the industry. We're talking HBO, DC Comics, a legendary film studio. Buying them would instantly give Paramount the kind of scale it so desperately needs. But, of course, there was a problem. Another bidder showed up at the table. And it wasn't just any rival. It was the undisputed Goliath of the streaming world, Netflix. And just like that, you've got a classic David versus Goliath showdown on your hands. So the battle lines were drawn. And this wasn't just about two competing offers. It was about two completely different visions for the future of Warner Bros. Discovery, and really for the whole media landscape. So let's break it down. How did these two proposals really stack up? Okay, so this is taken right from Paramount's pitch to shareholders, their M&A deck, and their argument was brutally simple. They basically said, look, our offer is the clear winner on every single important metric, from the actual cash you get to the certainty that the deal will even close. For them, it was a no-brainer, a safe bet versus a really risky gamble. Let's start with the simplest part, the money. Because for shareholders, the bottom line is, well, the bottom line. And it was crystal clear. Paramount put $30 per share, cash, on the table. Netflix's offer, which was a more complicated mix of cash and stock, was valued at about $1.25 less per share. But the really crucial point here goes way beyond just the price tag. It's about certainty versus risk. Paramount's offer was so clean. $30, all cash. You know exactly what you're getting. Netflix's offer, it was a mix, so its value could go up or down. And it came with what Paramount called a mountain of regulatory risk. And that risk wasn't just financial. You started hearing these alarm bells from some really prominent creative voices. I mean, a quote like this from James Cameron, one of the most successful directors ever, it highlights this deep cultural fear that Netflix, a company literally built on streaming, just doesn't respect the movie theater business. And the opposition, it got organized really fast. The Writers Guild of America framed the whole deal in these stark antitrust terms. These saw it as the world's biggest streamer trying to just swallow a key competitor, which is exactly the kind of thing they argue these laws were created to stop. This concern wasn't just stuck in Hollywood. It actually became a bipartisan issue over in Washington. And when you have lawmakers from both sides of the aisle starting to raise alarms about one company having too much power, well, that's a huge sign that the road to getting this deal approved for Netflix would be anything but smooth. So let's recap. Paramount had what they argued was a financially better offer, a cleaner offer, and a safer offer. They even went back and changed it to address all of Warner Bros. Discovery's feedback. They submitted the new proposal and then crickets. Radio silence, nothing, which just raises this huge question. Why? To understand that and to really get why Paramount was fighting so hard for this, we have to look at their grand strategy. See, this wasn't just some random opportunistic bid. For David Ellis and his turnaround plan, getting Warner Bros. Discovery wasn't just an option, it was the entire game. The logic was actually pretty simple. Merging with WBD could solve all of Paramount's biggest problems in one shot. The deal would instantly create a global streaming service big enough to compete. It would combine two legendary studios into a theatrical powerhouse, and it would shore up their old-school TV networks. It was their silver bullet. And the content side of it alone was just staggering. Just imagine for a second. HBO, the home of The White Lotus and Game of Thrones, combined with Showtime, home of Billions and Yellow Jackets, all under one roof? I mean, that is a premium content library that could go up against anyone. And this is where it all snaps back to Ellison's two-part vision. The WBD acquisition was the key to winning in content. That's the part that would provide the world-class library. The second part, winning in technology, well, that would be Paramount's job, to build a cutting-edge platform to deliver all that content to a global audience, something that could rival the user experience of a Netflix or a Disney+. And beyond all the strategy, there was this massive financial reason to do it. Paramount projected that by combining the two companies, they could find over $6 billion a year in efficiencies. So this deal wasn't just about growth. It was about building a much more profitable and sustainable business for the long haul. Which, of course, brings us to today. The offers are out there, the arguments have been made, and now the fight is in the hands of the people who matter most, the shareholders. They have to decide which path they want to take. And Paramount is making its case directly to them. They're basically asking Warner Bros. Discovery shareholders to ask their own board these really pointed questions. Questions like, hey, why did our board agree to a deal with lower value and less certainty? And what makes you think Netflix can even get this thing past regulators in a reasonable amount of time, if at all? At the end of the day, this whole billion-dollar battle really boils down to one fundamental question. And it's not just for these companies, it's for the entire media industry. As the world keeps changing, is the only path to survival to just get bigger, to consolidate power and become a giant? Because the answer to that is going to define what we all watch and how we watch it for decades to come.